Hey, welcome into another remote Gun Talk Live. I'm coming from my man cave, and we've got with us today two very special guests, two very good friends, one from Sitka, one from Backbone Media. We've got Derrick from Sitka, and we've got Eric from Backbone Media. How you guys doing?
Hey, thanks for having me.
You guys are some of the best in the industry because you get to work with some of the cool stuff, and you get to work with some cool people, mainly me. So anyway, Gun Talk Hunt, this Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by Loophole, Be Relentless, and by Timney Triggers, the world's finest triggers. You guys know them, they are some of the best triggers out there. You can put them up against anybody and they perform daily. They manufacture more than a dozen triggers for hunting rifles, including Elite Hunter Remington 700, the Calvin Elite Custom Remington Model 700, the Mossberg LBA long action and short action. But find your next trigger at timneytriggers.com. And also brought to you by Springfield Armory. Discover your next rifle or handgun at springfield-armory.com. Springfield Armory offers a variety of M1A rifles that fit your everyday need, from the SOCOM 16 compact tactical model to the Scout Squad model and everything else. Anyway, thank you, Springfield. Thank you, Loophole. And thank you, Timney Triggers. And thank you, Sitka, for being on this podcast. Talking camo today and how important it is. And I think it's one of those things we have obviously developed. We came from red flannel shirts back in the day, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Long way.
So Chris, tell us a little bit about your background first, before we get into all this cool product talk, because we've got a lot to get through in this short little podcast you guys are viewing or watching. From bull rider to fishing company to one of the leaders in camouflage. Give us some background.
Yeah, I mean, I rode bulls for about 14 years. I was, I would say, adequate at it because I left off ramen and baked potatoes for all of those years, but in between. And then I know you because I did work at Pure Fishing for all those years, and just through, I guess, happen chance, luck, and a little bit of hard work, it opened the door since I was doing some apparel development. I used to work at Cinch Jeans too before, and so, through some of my works on another brand there, it opened up, and how I wound up at Sitka, my wife was like, hey, if you could work anywhere, where would you work? And I'd be like, I don't know, Sitka. And she was like, went on a website. She was like, this looks like what you do. And I was like, holy crap. So that's essentially how I wound up with the job I've been doing for the past 3.5 years.
And it's a lot of passion. I mean, there's a lot of passion that goes into it, and you definitely have worked your ass off to get here, because even you worked with the Hodgman brand, and you kind of revitalized that brand and pumped a lot of good products out there that have come out of Hodgman. And you laid a big foundation there. And I'll be honest with you, man, I was a little disappointed you left there because I love Hodgman stuff, but I was pleased to see that you wound up at Sitka, because I know what you can do and what you're capable of. And Eric, you're working a little bit of a different angle here on this whole Sitka deal, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just working with folks like yourself, trying to spread the word and get product out there. It's, yeah,
you're an avid user. I mean, because there are guys, and we all know them that are in the hunting industry. They're in here just by happenstance. They're not avid end users, and we know guys like that. We love them, but they're just not that avid end user that we are ourselves. But Eric, you're probably, I can tell on the back wall there that you're an avid user.
Yeah, it's so crazy. People think about how do you get where you are, and it's crazy. Chris, you ended up where you are, and you as well. And it's like, I can't imagine how I could actually intend to get where I am today. But about 10 years ago, a little over that, I graduated college, didn't hunt or anything, didn't know how to do it, and figured it out. It's really challenging, obviously, to get into it without any help from anyone. And then I met this guy up on the mountain one day named Bill Vanderheiden. We ended up hunting together numerous times after that. But that morning we met, I shot my first elk with a bow. And then we ended up hunting numerous years together after that. Ended up starting a broadhead company called Iron Will. He turns out to be an engineer, created that. And then ended up getting out of that. And about a month later, the opportunity opened up to work with Sitka and Backbone and all these great brands. So it's just unreal how it all came together.
So on the side of a mountain, I mean, you guys have gotten probably plenty of discussions, but one of the discussions that always seems to come up, and a lot of it like comes when you say the word Sitka, is expensive hunting clothes. That's all people hear. And I kind of want it to demystify the idea of expensive camo, and that it's not just camo. It's not just a red flannel. And a lot of guys will say, well, why don't you just hunt the wind? Well, yeah, you should, but camo goes a long way, and especially engineered clothing, because that's exactly what this is. Chris, talk a little bit more about that and kind of demystify this idea, because I've got a lot of thoughts on this. I get in heated conversations about this. Anyway, I'll let you take it, and then I may go off.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, just from a story, like I remember being in high school hunting at my place in Alabama, and I would run out when it was 18 degrees, because that was like really cold for Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing like in Montana here, but cold's really relative. And so when you would go out there, I would look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, because I would have the cotton coveralls. You remember, like the full suit?
Oh,
and I'd be barely able to stand, my arms would be, and I would just be sitting up there like shivering in the free tree stand. And now I'll be like negative 20 degrees, in Alberta, with less layers like in bulk than I had then. And so that really speaks to, what you can do when you start. I call it the aha moment. And, everyone probably listening to this podcast, because they're all avid in what they do on the firearm side. But think about how much money you're investing in optics, in, rebuilding that gun, that rifle for the distance, and all the stuff that you're going to be doing. And you can be shelling out $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. And that's something you're going to use in that one moment you get the hunt and through the practice. But you're going to be wearing that apparel every day. And if you're uncomfortable, you're probably not going to have that great of an experience leading up to it. So, it's just like investing in your comfort. You'll be way more productive in the moment if you're not shivering. So, that's just the way, is like, think about it in the same way that you use the hardware in your hunts. Think of it in that aspect. And if you're going to be investing in that, you can run it for a long time. We try and build everything for repair and durability. And if you're buying the right type of garments for the type of hunting you're doing, you're going to have way better experience.
And for me, kind of the need for real technical hunting gear came organically. I mean, I was out, I remember I was out on a scouting mission right when I first started hunting, middle of summer, long ways from the truck. And I start feeling the hair on my arms stand straight up, right? All of a sudden, boom, thunderclouds roll in, not only lightning on top of me, but it just unleashes hail, just unleashed. I'm wearing jeans and a cotton t-shirt, straight up, nothing else, because it was a hot summer day. You don't think about anything else. I'm like, no big deal, I'll be fine. Well, lo and behold, the second the storm stopped, I was sprinting out of there. I was frozen to death. It was all I could do. I mean, it was white all over the ground from the hail. And it struck me right then, hey, if this is hunting season, hunt's over. Absolutely over. You got to be able to persist out there.
Yeah, I think, those are all great points, and you're 100% right. Both of you guys are. I am guilty of having equipped a $1,000 optic on a $300 rifle. And if you look at it that way, that's the glass that I am looking through. I want to see the best. The gun is going to operate. It's going to function. It's going to be fine. But I'm looking through that optic, and it's just the same with clothing. I want to be able to move and function. And one of the great things that we were talking about right before this, that I just got in, because my hunting style has adapted so much over the years. You know, I've turned into this guy that's a more of a run and gun style, which is great because you guys are outthinking me. But I've adapted more of a run and gun style. So you got to be slim. You got to be trim. You've got to be able to move quickly. You don't want to be carrying around a bunch of gear, but even if you do want to carry around a bunch of gear, you guys got something like the tool belt right here. And if you guys are listening to this, I apologize, because this is actually a work of art these guys have produced. It's basically a tool belt. You guys have re-engineered a tool belt to fit all your hunting needs. And it's a little waist pack that also comes with a removable stow strap, and it has like a bucket in there for all your clothing gear. And it's just a really cool piece of gear. Chris, talk about like the development of a lot of this gear that you guys are producing now. And we had talked about it before, that it's really engineered clothing, and the guys, I don't think, are aware that they're paying for durability. They're paying for, and all this engineering that goes behind this stuff, because there's a lot more to this stuff than just throwing up a camo pattern on a jacket.
Yeah, and that pack, the tool belt, is something I've been working on for 3 years, along with resetting the whole pack line. One of the things, we have a network of ambassadors that I use as field testers as well. But you know, I did when I first started, it was one of the questions I did what's called like the good, the bad, and the ugly kind of survey. I want everybody to tell me what they like, what they sort of don't like, and then if it's ugly, like, you got to fix it. And so when we went through that process, one of the number one requests we got was for a small run and gun style pack. And so that's what I've been working on developing. And you know, if you just Google tool belt video, I can take you through the whole. I won't spend time doing that on this podcast, but there's information out there about all the features. But you know, we reset the pack line, so now I've got, you know, a 2200 cargo box, which is like, you know, if you carry all the cargo in the woods that you ever need, including your kitchen sink, that one's for it. We got a pack that's ultimate silence, like that I developed with Jim Holt Jr., who is the original silent fanatic. Like, he'll tape your mouth shut if you talk too much.
Now that's actually an interesting story, because there was some stuff behind the scenes that you guys did with him, right? And I mean, so you went through his camp. So this guy kind of runs like a deer hunting 101 camp, like, and teaches you to go into the woods without making a sound. Like, no, I mean, it's ridiculous. You don't get
to go out until you pass. Yeah. I remember the first hunt I ever did there. I thought it was the guard hole, because I could see like the camp from where the stand was. But he was keeping an eye on me the first time I went out there. And so I had got everything down, and now I know it takes me 13 minutes to break down and climb down. But like, one of the things that Les comes and picks you up, and I've got down, I broke the stand, I'm halfway down the tree. Les pulls up in the quad, and this is like a cold day, and I'm not down the tree. Well, they leave you. They just go. He won't stop and wait for you to get down. And so he drives off. So then I'm sitting there. You're not allowed to walk back to the stand, back to the camp. I can see there. So I sat there for 45 minutes while he went around to go get everyone else, and then came back and got me. And so I literally sat there in like negative 15-degree weather, and I never, ever missed a pickup after that first one. But
no, you know, it takes you exactly. That's funny. I mean, but guys, when they take their hunting serious, and I would say I would say the camouflage and equipment and gear from Sitka isn't just for the fanatic. It really isn't. It's for the guy who wants to be comfortable and functional. And I think a lot of guys get lost in that, and they just think a coat's a coat. Well, it's really not. And we were talking a little bit about the engineering that goes behind a lot of this, and I'm actually going to share my screen. And let's talk about this character, Mr. Hats, that you guys use, because it's actually a fascinating story. I'm gonna share the screen real quick, and we'll get all that good stuff headed in.
Yeah. So we're talking about the updates that we do and some of the type of developments that we put into the garment. So when we were like last year, when we went through and redid the Fanatic, we were trying to make everything ultimate quiet, so we went to extreme lengths to make that jacket extremely quiet. Well, one of the things that I wanted to do with the Stratus, which is a super versatile piece, but it has a hood on it, is I hate hoods. Like, can't stand them. I hate beanies when I have to cover up my ears, and a lot of whitetail hunters know all about that. Yes. If you got a beanie on, you're flipping one up or one down as long as you can stand it. Don't want the hood on. So I wanted to make the hood where you could wear it if you were, in my case, forced to wear a hood because it was that uncomfortable outside.
Yes.
Or for people that like to wear hoods. So where it was like you weren't wearing a hood, but had all the warmth properties. So what we did through with the Stratus, and for those you can see it, it's not like we just stuck mesh hearing ports in ears of the hood. So there's, whether or not you know this or not, but if you go, like, Gore has a whole group of people that understand end user hearing, and that's because in your phone, whether or not you know it or not, they won't tell me which phones it goes in, it's secret, but it's like there's Gore material in there, and that's so if your phone heats up, it can let vapor out, but then you can drop your phone in the water and it doesn't allow water in. And so there's a group there that understands end user hearing, because you want to understand how those laminates affect or that material affects the hearing.
Right.
So there's this device that's out there, like in a BMW, they'll throw it in a BMW to see what the acoustics of the sound is going on in that BMW with not only the radio, but the car ride. And so it's called a head and torso simulator. And the name for that nickname is Mr. Hats, head and torso simulator. And so what we did is we took all of these different textiles, materials, meshes, insulations, and would build these hoods and put them on Mr. Hats so we could figure out what was making a difference. So you wouldn't believe it, but the type of mesh you use can really make a difference. And then we figured out, like, we could even double the insulation of the Polar Tech that we're using and almost have no insertion loss or acoustic loss. And by doing that, we could figure out what materials were going to work best. Then we worked with James Black, who's an acoustic engineer. He's the guy that if you go in a sound, like a concert venue, makes it better, or an office building makes it better. And he and I took a bunch of leaves I brought back from Georgia with me, and we built this bucket kind of setup, and we would take a simulated deer hoof and crush those leaves. So we would get the frequency. He adjusts it, so the chart on the left there is what it will report out. Right. He adjusts it for the sweet spot of human hearing on the right side, which is the gray box. Right. And then he can throw all that into an algorithm, because we know you lose 6 decibels for each distance you double. And we could calculate that the fact that all that, we basically increase the distance you can hear with the hood 4 times as much. So that's like 80 yards versus 20 yards.
So instead of, you got your beanie on and all that good stuff, which is going to make a huge difference in location. If you're sitting on a mountain, and there's a stream down there or something like that, your ears gravitate towards that sound. And so this is going to actually help filter sounds, right?
Yeah, it's essentially going to help. Like, we've all had it happen, where you didn't hear a deer coming from the backside, and you didn't have enough time to get set. So
all
that
the time.
can really make the difference.
That's the world I live in right now. Like that's every time, every hunt for me is like, is that and you don't want to turn around. Oh, heaven forbid you like move a little bit because they're going to bust you.
Yeah, and they're cued in the movement very, very well, which concealment can really help with that. But no matter what you're doing from a concealment standpoint, they process movement way faster than we do. So that's actually something we know from working with Carl Miller. So I don't think for those of you at archery hunt, my theory, and kind of Carl and I have talked about this, is they're not jumping the sound of your arrow, they're jumping the movement of the bow going off and the fletchings and everything else.
Yeah.
I've had them duck an arrow at 35 yards and watch on video, they jump, 12, 18 inches just like that. And the fact that they can process movement faster than we can as humans, they see things in like a blurry world. But from a deer vision standpoint, they see things almost like in a slow motion and 280 degrees. So you got to imagine being able to see behind me and in front of me,
right,
like a band like this. And then their brain is able to process that movement faster than we can. So they got to be able to, you and I see stick, there's a stick, duck, there's a log, there's a branch. They see the whole world and so they have to process things in a different way. Plus get out of the way of predators.
So, yeah.
So then I'm wondering, like, when I'm sitting there half the time, I'm thinking like, are they seeing me every time I shift around, every time I move? And then I'm wondering, like, I have to wonder how many deer am I missing or scaring away that I don't even know about?
Yeah.
Because I'm moving and twitching.
Well, and on top of that, you got to worry about scent. So now we're throwing in, your scent and how that dissipates through clothing. And you guys have all that figured out too, because I know sometimes, when I go on a remote hunt, my scent care is less than ideal. It's awful when you're on the road. I mean, it's hard to manage, especially when you're out for a week, 10 days, something like that. I mean, good clothing goes a long way because there's, again, engineering right behind it.
Yeah, and the components you're doing with scent, like I do everything I can, like obviously bathe and do what you can.
I'm so glad you bathe.
Scent.
I'm really glad you bathe.
We use the scent-free soaps. It's always a good thing to do, like, before the hunt. But the one thing is, if you think of what's coming out of your mouth, it's going to override even what's coming out of your apparel. So I've talked about this, honestly, with Carl. And playing the wind is most important. It's not that you can't do all of those things, and they can all help maybe reduce your scent profile. But the reason we don't have actually a true, we can't prove it works. And so that's one of the things that, when it takes a look at, you can do all of these things and they will help. But you're breathing. And so if they get downwind of you, play the wind's the best thing you can do. I honestly will say that. And, do what you can, don't eat a hamburger. That's probably not going to help right in the sand. So
you mean the biscuit that I just got at the quick stop down the road, like that's been in there heating up for 4 days, is not the best attractant?
It's not, and actually what deer run from is they're not inherently scared of you. It's a learned behavior. So it may be something that they've established before, but they're that's just kind of, and they all have different personalities too. It's funny, if you go to like the research center at UGA, which is really interesting, some bucks like that they have sitting out are sitting, and they won't come from 80 yards. But then there'll be other deer that are like right up in your face. It's like, just like if anybody works with cattle, they do have different personalities.
They do.
Yep. I have a funny story like that. Chris and I went, we did this hunt last December together, whitetail hunt, muzzleloaders. And I was up in the stand. Buck finally shows up. I have the perfect lineup. Now there's sticks, all sorts of stuff. Buck's 100 yards away, muzzleloader. With scoped muzzleloader. We're in good shape here. Yeah. Feeling great about the shot. I let her rip. and the buck just spins and stops like 20 yards away. And I'm like looking at him, I'm like, okay. I put up the binoculars. Nothing's coming out of him. He's just standing there just fine. I'm like, did I miss him? What just happened here? And I take the time. I'm like, no way he's going to let me reload this thing. It seems like 5 minutes. I don't know how long it was. I fully reloaded it. I hear Chris texting me. He's saying, Eric, did you shoot? Did you shoot? And
give me 5 minutes.
I get a whole nother shot off. Bang, a whole nother one. And thankfully get it. But I'm thinking like, what's the deal here? But the whole morning, Chris and I are listening to this oil derrick pop off.
Oh, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, not a big deal. Like they're used to this bang noise all the time. And
they're just not used to that impact. That's where he gets you. It's the impact.
Yeah.
It's funny.
They didn't tell us about those because for the first, I was like, because I didn't know there were
everybody's shooting.
I was like, God, this place is crazy. And then like after about like 10 minutes, I figured, okay, this is above and beyond. And I think I texted Derrick. I was like, are these oil wells going on?
Yeah, that's funny.
I'm hearing it chugging behind me.
You know, I had something similar like that to happen to me this year too, Eric. You're not alone in your misses. I had this season was really good. It really was. But the Iowa trip that I had put in for on like 5 years, I missed the biggest whitetail of my life. It was probably 180 inches, muzzleloader. Same thing. Shot, most of the deer leave the field, but he didn't. Like he was the only one that stood around, and I'm like, no, wait, all right, load up the muzzleloader, and
he's gonna tip over any second here, right?
Yep, any second. 2 clean misses, man. I was shaking so bad. Like, that deer was massive. It's still burned into my memory, unfortunately. But on those lines, like, there's a lot of reasons, like, why I'm able to get shots off like that. One, dumb luck is probably the biggest key factor, but 2, it's slow movements in the stand and I mean taking your time. I wasn't like I'd be in Revolutionary War if someone else was shooting at me. I'm sitting there really taking my time loading and being diligent about what I'm doing in the stand. But I do have a quick story about camouflage, though, and why, if you look at the prices of camo nowadays, it's actually not that expensive. Because if you average it out, I've been using the same Sitka pants, same system, because really it's an entire system. Like you guys have developed a system, which I love, but I've been using the same system for 4 years, no issues. So I'm really not spending that much on it. Like if you extend it, and there's no fading, and I wash this stuff religiously. There's no fading, and I think that's one of the best things. I would say that's one of the best things that you're paying for, is your camo is not fading. What are you guys putting in that? Is it Magic Unicorn urine that you're putting in that?
It's it's fairy dust and urine.
I knew it.
So no, it's there's tests you can do with our color fastness test, and they have to reach a standard. So any textile that we run through development has to go through that standard. Any treatment processes it goes through, like if you put polygene on it or scent you talked about, or DWRs, all those things can have an effect on the color. So, and then we have this person that named Brandon Bell. He's got eyes that are really good at looking at colors. So we have machines that can do it, but you have a person that does it too. And the color standard has to hit a level. But in order to pass, like he has to do a training every year where he takes I think it's 100 or 200 colors, and he has to put them in order. This is not like blue, red. This is like blue and almost the same blue and almost the same blue and almost the same blue. And he can only get 2 wrong, I think, out of 100.
So he has to pass a test to do this work for you. What if he fails the test once? Is he out of a job?
I guess they got to hire some more people around him. But that's his. He's like he has the eyes, because we all might have a certain level of color blindness that we're not aware of, but there's certain people that have perfect eyes in that sense. So
Dude,
he can detect like the slightest difference in color.
That's nuts. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't pass the test. So.
I couldn't pass that test. There's no way. I'd fail that quicker than a chem test. But Eric, Chris, man, guys, thank you so much for being on Gun Talk Hunt. We really do appreciate you guys and love what you guys are doing over there. Keep it up, and we'll keep preaching the good word, man. Go out there and hunt, learn, because I mean exactly how Chris did. And before we part, what is the sage advice from two veterans now that you would give someone just now entering the hunting world? Because we've got an influx of new hunters coming in, and we want to set them off on the right foot. What would be the one piece of advice you guys would give?
You first, Derrick. I'll go second.
Yeah. I would say, so this is what I did when I first started hunting. I bought the cheapest everything. I would say just learn what you need and buy one new thing every year. Just one new thing, and then buy once, cry once, and be done.
I do like that. That's actually very good advice. Chris, what about you?
My standpoint, I've got two things. One would be find yourself a good ethical mentor, and beg that person to teach you. Because I think one of the things that we run into, seeing like gut shot antelope or something running across the side, the side of a hill, people have somebody with enough discipline that can help you learn the right way. I think we'll do a lot more, because if we want to keep these rights that we have as far as hunting goes, nothing turns a landowner off than somebody that comes in and trashes their place and doesn't do the right thing. So you find yourself a good ethical mentor.
Absolutely.
Or a lot of people that'll do that. And then second, if you're looking at from a clothing perspective, don't buy the $450 jacket and put it over a cotton t-shirt. Set your foundation with a good synthetic base layer. I don't care if it's 15 degrees outside, wear a lightweight synthetic base layer, lightweight merino into the woods, because if you put that $450 jacket over a cotton t-shirt, you're going to have a bad freaking day. And
absolutely.
So the responsibility to build your system in the right way is on you, and the team, the customer service team at Sitka can help you with that too.
Yep. All right, Chris, give them where they can go learn more about the wonderful brand of Sitka.
SitkaGear.com, and then, go visit your local retail shop, find somebody there. They're always experts too as well, and they can help you.
Sounds great, guys. Thank you guys for joining Gun Talk Hunt, and we'll talk to you guys next week.